with guest Greg Smith from Marty's Flooring America. So we left off at um, the different locations that all these different floor coverings go, and what's recommended and not recommended. I know it's a preference, and we'll do whatever they want as long as they get the green, right?
Well, yes and no.
Well, yeah.
I have walked from jobs many times when people have asked me to do things I knew
What
would
are
go
the
against my
stupid
grain.
things then? Tell me the stupid things so
Well,
people don't do them.
You know, people ask you to put flooring in places where they really shouldn't. I had a couple come in a couple of weeks ago. They walked in the store and they had 4 or 5 kids with them and a little dog, and they have 4 more dogs at home. And some of the things, the difference between a good salesperson and a bad salesperson is finding out what the customer's needs are. You know, I've got products that I'd love to move, sure, that we make more better margin on, but if it's not the right product for the client, it doesn't matter what I make on it. Find out what their needs are. These folks walked in, and they were looking at the sheerest, most beautiful piece of white carpet that I have in my store that I wouldn't even put in my house, or my mother, who's in Meat Creek, I wouldn't put it in her house. And they got 4 kids that are drinking Slurpees and chasing the dog and this and that, and I just couldn't talk them out of buying that white carpet, and they ended up walking. And I don't know if they ended up buying white carpet. They may be back. A lot of times that's the case after they find out.
It'll last a year.
It was a quality product. It had a great stain protection, and it would probably clean up fine, but they'd be chasing stains the whole time. So I pretty much told them they need to go find something else. And I'll do that. Just selling it for the sales or the sense of selling is probably not the best way to do it.
And there are other products that aren't necessarily good. Like, now my thought, we do it all the time because that's what they want, but my wife and I had hardwood in our kitchen, and if you drop something on it, you dent it. And you do, you got wet hands and
You do.
drying off silverware, and bang, that knife goes right in and sticks up in the hardwood.
Yep. Well, wood always isn't a bad idea in the kitchen. I've been some houses where the floor plan, it just lended itself for the floor to flow into the kitchen.
Right.
A lot of the floor plans today are open kitchen family areas, and to have those break in the surface,
agree.
it doesn't look appeasing. But when they go into kitchens, I'm making sure that they understand the downside first, and talking to them, and maybe some rugs in the water areas in front of the refrigerator where you might have something fall out, in front of the sink where you're doing dishes and things like that. Usually put a nice rug that you can roll up and throw away. The other thing is you probably want to go to a surface that's a harder wood, a species that's much harder, from the oaks up. Stay away from the cherries and the softer birches and things of that nature, but go into a harder wood, and possibly a distressed hardwood would be best in the kitchen. That way, if you get a ding or a bang, you're not freaking out about it, and you're in good shape.
Now, you mentioned water, so I know when you come on to my jobs to look at laying floor, you do what to check the concrete, especially when you just poured a slab?
Well, if it's carpet, I don't care what it is. We're gonna
It doesn't matter.
carpet breeze. It doesn't really matter, A vinyl surface, yeah, we're gonna check the moisture. But with a wood floor, it's probably the most important thing to do is check the moisture content of the slab. It's very important. Wood is a living, breathing thing, and it's constantly absorbing moisture and releasing moisture. Because that, it's moving. If you have too much moisture under the concrete, first it's going to create alkalinity, and that alkalinity is going to affect
The glue.
The adhesive is going to be eaten up right away. Alkalinity is basically acid byproduct, and that is going to eat the adhesive. Then it's going to affect the bond of the floor, so eventually the floor will fall apart. And that's a problem here in Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita is basically a riverbed. We live in a riverbed, and there's a lot of water underground here. So certain pockets are very wet. Some of them are dry. You can pretty much tell me the name of your street, and I'll tell you the condition of the slab there because they've been around long enough. Now, the manufacturers have come out with different adhesives at this point, though, that are much more water-resistant adhesives that actually push the water away from the wood floor back into the concrete or contain it. And we use that on all of our floors. We don't give our guys different adhesive for different jobs if they get the same glue for everything.
Then you don't make any mistake.
Well, we haven't had a problem with it, knock on wood,
Yep.
and we'll stay with it.
All right, so speaking of wood, I'm actually doing an addition now, and they have it's like a pergo. They got some blue product that they lay down first. Are you familiar with what that is?
What was it? Was it spread on the floor, or was it just laying over
It's
the
just
top?
laying over the top.
Well, all laminate type flooring and some of the newer floating wood floors have
Like a slip sheet? Or?
Well, it's a moisture barrier, sound barrier, takes up some of the unlevelness in the floor. The only surface that I really personally like to install over floating is a laminate floor. I don't like to install wood floors floating. I think it makes in a very expensive wood floor feel like a laminate floor, and you lose that nice warm feel that you get with a solid floor. Most likely what you saw, if it was blue, it was probably a moisture barrier for one of the laminates. They all are different colors, shapes, textures. They all do pretty much the same thing. Take out some of the unlevelness in the floor, make it smoother walk or softer walk. They also create a moisture barrier, keeping water from affecting the laminate. And a lot of them do sound protection, which is really important.
Okay, yeah, because they do. The click floors
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
They're noisy.
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 And today at 3, we're going out to Circle J to see an old customer of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about real hardwood. We're going to add some oak to the rest of his house. We already did oak in the entry and the kitchen. I guess he wants to do some more oak. So we have to actually put down a marine quality, whatever we call it, piece of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, all of your transitions change. You go into the bathroom with tile, you're going to have a transition there. Usually it's a little more level if you have tile, but you go into a bedroom with carpet, unless the carpet has a lot of padding. All the doors have to be cut. It's a little bit of a process, but it turns out pretty beautiful. Good?
Well, I would assume, based on what you're telling me, this is a solid hardwood.
Exactly.
And it's a completely different animal from the things we've discussed at this point. Solid versus engineered. I'd say 90% of what's put down in Santa Clarita is engineered hardwood.
Right.
Engineered hardwood is, in fact, engineered for stability. And most of the homes that I'm probably talking to are on a concrete foundation. Engineered hardwood lends itself much better to concrete foundation. When you have a solid hardwood, you must put it over plywood. And that's the concern that you have with difference in transitions, door heights, door openings, where it meets other surfaces, can become a big issue. And you definitely need a professional to discuss that with you before you make a decision.
And we'll talk about inlays and finishes when we come back on real hardwood. Okay, this is Randall Winter with Hometown Station, Santa Clarita's #1 AM 1220 KHTS.